Hey, Bills Mafia. We know there's only one topic every day. All Bills, all the time. And now Matt Bove and Sal Capaccio are going really deep, talking Bills all year long, because it's always game day in Buffalo.
Welcome to the special NBA and NHL Finals edition of It's Always Game Day in Buffalo. Just kidding, everybody, but we are here. It's that time of year where it's summer. Look at Matt. He's outside enjoying some weather outside. I love it.
It's more so because everybody always complains about my Wi-Fi, so I'm trying, if I do it outside, to see if the Wi-Fi is better, which doesn't make any sense to me because my internet speeds are fantastic, right? Like I have a really good, every time I do a speed test, it's like, hey, your internet's great. And then everybody keeps commenting, you keep pausing, you keep freezing. So I'm going to try outside today, and if it works, then I will just permanently move outside, I guess.
Well, if it works, that'd be great. I mean, permanently outside, you could have some bad weather. We could be a little challenging, but that's okay. It was great though. I just got home. We're recording this on Tuesday night, and I just got home from a Little League baseball game over at Shoshone Park in North Buffalo, where Max plays. And it's the first time really I've been out there. Maybe I guess early in the year there was a couple nice days of weather, but it's just been so drastically chilly and rainy in Buffalo. Today was a great day, especially out of OTAs, 80 degrees in Orchard Park. It was great.
Yeah, this was elite weather. This is what we were waiting for. The problem is we're recording this on June 3rd. It should not have taken all the way until June 3rd to get this elite weather that you, of course, want. So we'll have it for now a couple months, hopefully, and then all of a sudden it's going to be fall and it's going to get chilly again, and you're going to go, what gives? I mean, the other day, what was it? It was the end of May, and it was in the 40s a couple days. It was just absurd that that's what we were dealing with. So luckily, we have made it through to hopefully the nice weather portion of the calendar.
All right, so let's get to the storylines from OTAs on Tuesday. This is the final week of organized team activity, and then after that, it will be mandatory minicamp next Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Now, the media only gets one day to watch OTAs. The Bills were on the field on Monday, Tuesday, and then again on Thursday. Tuesday's our only day out there. We did not see Josh Allen. Not a surprise. He got married over the weekend to his actress wife now, Haley Steinfeld. We know that. A few guys who we believe from pictures were at the wedding: Dawson Knox, Dalton Kincaid, Mitch Trubisky, a couple others, Deion Dawkins, Spencer Brown. They were at OTAs, but let's start with Josh and missing Josh. I thought that obviously there's going to be a noticeable difference with the offense, but even in this setting, Matt, the biggest thing for me was guys not getting rid of the ball and processing quick enough. Like, I think you just realize when Josh Allen's not out there how elite of a processor he is.
Yeah. My biggest takeaway from watching practice today, no disrespect to Mitch Trubisky, this is way too early on in the year. Oh my goodness gracious, are they screwed if they do not have Josh Allen? And you can say that for pretty much every team in the NFL, right? You lose your starting quarterback, you're going to be really struggling.
Yes.
It's just, oh my goodness gracious, he is so talented. And I think we now take it for granted a little bit because it's what we've been used to for the last several years. And it just felt like the offense was in the mud a little bit from what I was watching today. Just not a lot of chemistry, the ball floating in the air when it was coming out of the quarterback's hand. It's very early. It would not be that way in 4 or 5 months when they're actually playing football games. But he is certainly the most valuable player in the league, and to the Bills.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, it could say that for any team, but especially one with an elite quarterback. You take an elite quarterback off the team, and that's what's going to happen. I got a tweet from a listener and viewer, follower, whatever, earlier today. It said, boy, why don't they want to get a competent backup? And I'm like, wait a minute. Like, look, every team in the league deals with this, as you just said. Actually, I'll say this. As much as you just said that about Mr. Trubisky, he's still one of the more quality backup quarterbacks in the league. Look around, folks. Look at every roster. You don't just find starting level quarterbacks as backups. You're going to pay them that kind of money, and they're going to have jobs elsewhere anyway. So that's not the case.
This is an offshoot that I don't think we planned on taking. Is Mitch Trubisky definitely on the team? Is he absolutely their backup? I don't think he is.
I don't think so either. But I think that right now he'd be the number 2. And I do think that he would still compare favorably to most number 2s in the league.
I agree with that. My question is, I don't know the answer to this right now. How much better is Mitch Trubisky at this point in his career than what Mike White would bring you? And Mike White would be a lot cheaper, right? Like, I don't think that that's going to be the case. I think we're going to see the same quarterbacks that we saw last year. But I don't know if it's a shoe-in lock that Mitch Trubisky is on the team. I'm sorry, that was just like a little tangent.
No.
Didn't need to go off on.
I think it's
relevant.
I do think so. And here, let me just do this real quick. if they were to release Mitch Trubisky at cutdown day, they would save $1.5 million. So, I mean, like every little bit
It's
counts
not
at that
nothing.
point. No,
That's
that's
not
right.
nothing. That's another rosterable player that could make a difference. $1.5 million.
Yeah, I agree. When he was throwing passes, whether it was Trubisky, White, or Shane Buechele, when they were throwing passes, I actually thought the tight ends had a nice day. I saw Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, Zach Davidson, and Jackson Hawes get in on a little bit. So I thought they had a nice day overall. Then at wide receiver, it was a little tough. Keon Coleman, there was a debate. You tell me, did you see the play down the sidelines? There was a play where Keon Coleman looked to me like he dropped the ball. Later, my buddy Matt Perino, our buddy Matt Perino, said he was right there and Max Harrison got a hand on it. Did you see it?
Okay, so I think I was watching practice from a similar area to where you were. A couple other of our colleagues were over there. Our vantage point, it looked like it went through Keon's hands, but
Yes.
I saw Perino after practice, and he said he and Joe Biscaglia from The Athletic were standing right there, and Hairston went stride for stride with Keon and made a nice play on the ball, and that's why it was an incomplete pass. So they had the better vantage point, so I would just trust their eyes if they were closer because we were pretty far away and pretty blocked out. So, I mean, that's a good sign if you're thinking about this from the Hairston perspective. Of course, he's going to run stride for stride with Keon. He's really fast, and that's the knock on Keon is that he's not super fast. But, it was a really nice ball from what we could see. So maybe that's one that you want Keon to probably come down with. It's not Josh Allen, though, and it's a different throw if he's there and there's a little bit more velocity and the whole play looks different.
And earlier before that, there was a play where Max Harrison was covering Tyrell Shavers, and this was to me kind of a welcome to the NFL moment. Like, yeah, you're right. He looked like he had good coverage, but Tyrell Shavers, he's taller, and he was just able to go up and high point the ball over Max Harrison. Who, if you're Max Harrison, you're probably like, wait a minute, in college, that's not a completion.
Yeah, that was a sick play. That was probably the one highlight of the day for the offense. There were a couple other nice plays, right? Like Ty Johnson had a couple nice plays that I thought, but it was not with no pads on. It's take everything for a grain of salt. Let the ball. I mean, I don't know. Did you notice? I don't think we're giving away any trade secrets here. Like Christian Benford and Trey White were doing team drills with bands around their hips, right? Like they're working on technique while they're doing team drills because obviously, like they're not. Did I just say? How did I just say? Obviously, I feel like I mispronounced. Obviously, it's a weird one to mispronounce.
I always get tripped up on eliminated. Yeah.
Obviously, they're focusing on certain things right now. So those kind of like plays, whatever, like take them with a grain of salt.
All right. Let's I mean, unless you have anything else on specific plays or players you saw at camp, I think the attendance today was a bit of a storyline because even though Spencer Brown was there, he did not practice. DeMar Hamlin was there, he did not practice. Joey Bosa, we know, is injured. James Cook, not
Joey
there,
Bosa
obviously.
today, by the way.
Yeah, Joey Bosa was there. I did not see him, but I guess he was. Other people saw him. I did not see him.
Yeah,
I wasn't
saw him.
specifically looking for him. We didn't see Spencer Brown till later. He had come out a little bit later. I think the big one for people, Cam Lewis wasn't there at all. I didn't see him at all. And then I think the big one for people, obviously, is Balen Spector. And what I say by big one is here's a guy who's been pretty much your number 2 middle linebacker. He wasn't available towards the end of last year, and he lost his job for that reason to Joe Andreessen. And I think we're trending towards Joe Andreessen just outright winning that job this year due to partly Balen Spector's lack of availability.
Yeah, definitely. I would say right now that has to be the betting favorite just because it feels like every single year Balen Spector is dealing with some sort of ailment. And, that's really unfortunate for a guy who at times flashed, right? You don't want to see a player's career kind of have this hiccup or this bump in the road because they just can't stay healthy. But this isn't an accident or a fluke anymore, right? Like this is an every single year type deal for him. So I think that when you're talking about a backup, you need the guy who's going to be available and not the guy who's going to be injured. So then you have to manufacture roster spots and call up guys from the practice squad and figure things out. If you think and trust that Joe Andreessen can do almost as good of a job as Balen Spector, and I think he can, then I feel like that should be the guy who gets the roster spot. And there's other linebackers in the mix too that we don't know enough about just yet. But continuity matters to them. And that's why I do think Andreessen has a leg up on some of the other guys.
So no James Cook again. We're going to find out next Tuesday if James Cook is here for mandatory mini camp. This is when it starts to get ratcheted up. No surprise that he's not out there right now. But as of 7 days from now, Matt, that's when we're going to have another podcast. We're going to do this, and we're going to have that as our lead storyline either way.
Yeah, either way, James Cook, his attendance will be the top story, and that'll be the top national story too, with everything Bills related that day.
Mhm.
Is he there? Is he not there? The beauty of a mandatory minicamp is that there is more availability. So even if for some reason he is not there for day one, there's a chance that changes by day 2 or by day 3. Maybe he tries to make a statement with missing one day and then shows up the next day. We don't really know, but that'll certainly be what we're paying attention to. At this point, like I don't think it surprised either of us that he wasn't there. The one thing I did say though, I said it to Dom Tibbetts on Channel 7 on Monday night. I wouldn't have been shocked if he was at practice for this week of voluntary workouts just due to the proximity of mandatory. If his team or agents were like, squash this now, then it'll be a non-story next week. The thing is, I think they want it to be a story. Like this is something they want it to be known that
Interesting.
he is not happy. So I don't think that it would have gotten to that point because I think that there's somebody in his ear saying like, this is what you need to do. Because my guess is he would have probably just been out there, at least in some capacity this week.
Yeah, and it feels like it has been something that they kind of want out there, or at least haven't been shy about it with him and his behavior on social media. So we'll check on that next week. Okay, so before practice today, defensive coordinator Bobby Babich spoke to the media. We were in the room. Offensive coordinator Joe Brady then spoke to the media. Any takeaway from, let's start with Bobby Babich, anything that he said that you took away that was notable?
Okay, so I have a couple notes here from what Bobby Babich said, and the three things that stood out the most to me were his pretty adamant praise for Taylor Rapp. Did you catch
Mhm.
that? It was actually a question from me. I asked about the safety position and how he evaluated it, and he was like,
Well,
he dug in
not
on
only did
Taylor
I
Rapp.
catch it, but it's validation for me because I kept telling everybody before the draft they weren't going to draft a safety because they love Taylor Rapp. How many
Mhm,
times did I get told, "Oh my God, Malachi Starks, Malachi Starks"? Look, you could love Malachi Starks. You could
mhm.
make an argument that Malachi Starks could walk onto the Bills. It's not just about Cole Bishop. I heard from a lot of fans who said they just don't think Taylor Rapp is the right guy. But look, whether we agree or a fan agrees, it's been known, it's been seen, and now he confirmed it. They love Taylor Rapp.
Yeah. Now, the one thing I'll say there is that he doesn't have to say it like that. He could say we were happy with the play of the safeties. We think they made improvements. We're excited about the future. But he like really dug his heels in specifically on Taylor Rapp. So I did think that that was notable. He also said that, listen, I thought DeMar Hamlin had his best season as a pro.
Mhm.
And even though it wasn't quite up to the standard that we're used to the last several years, I mean, we're comparing him to two guys who are now great Bills in Poyer and Hyde. I think that him being around for another year is probably a luxury they didn't plan on having. I'm assuming the Bills thought his market would be greater and he would have gotten a job elsewhere. For him to be around, like I'm reading this as it's Taylor Rapp and Cole Bishop, and it's Cole Bishop's
Oh
job
yeah.
to lose. Unless I'm reading it wrong, the way they're talking about Cole Bishop and the work that he's put in and the strides that he's making, which was something Bobby Babich said today, it feels like we're trending in the Taylor Rapp Cole Bishop direction.
Totally. And I think that's the way it's been for a long time. And I agree with you. One of the things that he said that I thought stood out was about Cole Bishop. He
Mhm.
said it's the comfortability of what we're doing. You see him take more control. He didn't even play in training camp last year. Those were valuable reps. And I think that's saying a lot about Cole Bishop to further your point about Rapp and Bishop.
Okay, now this one was a little bit this is more on the back burner, but did you notice how he talked about Hancock and how he said, quote, "They have a very detailed plan for him."
Oh,
That is
it wasn't just detailed playing. Let me read this. I thought this was hilarious, actually, the way he said it.
I mean, we're talking about a
You
day
ready?
3 defensive back draft pick, and this is how they're talking about him.
A well thought out, articulate, time sensitive plan for him. And this was on my question. And the reason I asked, and I understand, is Jordan Hancock is like Cam Lewis. He's coming
Mhm.
into this league, though, now as a rookie. He's not Cam Lewis, who has, 8 years in the league, essentially. He can play nickel, he can play safety. The question I posed was, how do you figure out where he fits best while you're kind of trying to figure out where he fits best, right? And give
Mhm.
him everything he needs for one position. Like, do you train him one spot and then give him the other? Do you put him both places? So he basically said, like, we have this plan and we're gonna figure it out and we're gonna go through this plan throughout offseason and training camp.
Doesn't it feel like the plan is to be Terran's primary backup? And then if they think that at some point they want to move on from Terran to save money, then all of a sudden he could be the guy to step in? Like, doesn't it feel like that's the plan from
Oh,
the
I
outside
don't
looking
know.
in?
I don't know. I think it can be. I don't know if I'd agree with that. What I think is it's very possible that happens. I think a lot of this has to do with Cam Lewis. This might come down to where they feel Cam Lewis fits best as a one position guy, because I don't see him and Cam Lewis both doing the same thing. I think we're going to put one at corner, nickel corner. Cam Lewis. See, the reason I push back a little bit on that, Matt, is Brandon Beane has said Cam Lewis will be a starting nickel corner on most teams in this league. And if they feel that, I don't think they're just moving him to safety full time. Then I think that means you make him the backup nickel, and Jordan Hancock is a safety.
See, that makes sense. But from what I have at least read in the conversations I've had with people who watch and cover Ohio State, it seems like he's more better suited to be a corner than he is to be a safety. And if that's where his skill set is, don't you just try and get younger and cheaper? Because Cam Lewis is, it's not like he's a crazy expensive contract, but you're still paying him more than what a rookie is making, especially a day 3 rookie. So I don't know. Like, I'm really interested, but it was weird to me.
Are you suggesting there that Cam Lewis wouldn't be on the team then?
No, I think he would because of the position versatility, and I think Hancock has that too. But if that's the case, then we would be having a different conversation potentially about guys like Jamarcus Ingram or Dane Jackson, just other members of the secondary. Like, I just don't know how many bodies they could keep, even though those guys we're talking about are versatile.
I think it's really interesting how they're going to treat it. We'll get more clarity when we go to training camp and we see more of where he's playing. Where he's playing. But I think that comes down to me, I think their plan is going to be, we'll put Cam in one spot, Jordan Hancock in the other. We're not going to have both of them training on both spots all year. And because I think, Cam doing both all year last year, even though that's versatile for him, maybe it becomes a point where if you concentrate on one, it's a little better for you. Anything else from, you said there were 3 things from Babich.
Yeah. He tipped his hand a little bit, and it's not a shock because we could just see it by the picks that they made about how they were, when addressing the defensive line, how they valued size. Like, that is something that they were looking for, size. So it feels like they have a type. And we knew that from Greg Rousseau and AJ Epinesa, but then when they made the draft pick of Deion Walker, I know TJ Sanders is not a huge defensive tackle by any stretch, but like Ogunjobi is a certain type of player. It feels like they wanted to get bigger on the defensive line. And then he went on to say that they needed a more consistent level of play, regardless of the opponent. And he kind of alluded that towards the defensive line, which I agree with, right? The defensive line at times last year flashed, but was way too often inconsistent and had a couple games where they just really didn't show up. And unfortunately for the Bills, one of their last games, or their last game, was a game where it felt like they didn't show up.
Let's talk about Joe Brady and what he had to say. Before we do that, we want to remind everybody that if you want to watch us, you got to go to Sal Sports on YouTube, where all the videos are right there. You can subscribe, and then you can see how the light starts for Matt, and then he's going down. The sunlight has gone down. It's kind of cool, actually, watching in your background how when you started, it was lighter, but obviously you're outside, so the sun is setting, and you can see that in the background. It's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, I thank goodness.
Little matinee podcast here.
Yeah, thank goodness for this light that I've got here, or else I would be completely in the dark. What I'm really looking at right now is I just got these new little LED kind of like hockey puck looking things that are solar panels for the backyard. So I put them out today. So I was looking to see if they lit up, and they did. So success.
We have the same thing, and we love it.
They look good.
Sometimes every once in a while, it's like, why isn't that working? And then all of a sudden, it's all working. It looks really good. Right. So
yeah, for sure.
We have the same thing. Joe Brady spoke to the media as well. It was interesting for me. One of the takeaways was I asked Joe how do you build, what's the difference? He's in a unique position with most OCs. Everybody's back except for 2 receivers out, 2 receivers in, right? Cooper and Hollins out, Elijah Moore and Joshua Palmer are in. Otherwise, everybody's the same. The entire offensive line is intact. The entire running back room, the entire tight end room, the entire quarterback room. You have a couple additions here or there. And what he said was really interesting. He said, look, if you think that just because you had this really, good offense last year and you have everybody coming back, that you could just keep building from there, then you're too comfortable. You still have to go back and say, what did we do that we can improve on? Where can we get better? When I asked, what does better look like? He talked about all those kinds of things in the margins, right? It's not the production. Yes, you want better production overall. Everybody does. But really what it comes down to is being a good blocker and helping your teammates, all those things that go into really making the entire offense work.
I didn't love that answer from him. I liked the first part of it. I didn't love the second part because, as you should have, you asked a good follow-up about what does getting better look like. And then he kind of gave you like the cop-out, well, we got to be better with everything that we do, because I would have been really interested if he had a specific thing that he pointed to.
Yeah.
And I get that as a coach, he probably doesn't want to show his hand, but I've always appreciated, like every year, it feels like every offseason, Josh has a thing that he's always talking about how he's trying to improve. And I would have really liked to kind of peel back the curtain a little bit if Joe Brady was like, I didn't like our run concepts enough last year, or I didn't like how we executed on the tush push plays in the AFC Championship, and that's something we need to work on. Or, hey, I see the charts about the separation too, and the wide receivers didn't do a good enough job at getting separation. I need to manufacture ways to get those guys open to give us the best way to have success. So I feel like there are actual specific things that he could have said, and I would have appreciated that. Now, that doesn't mean that's not what they're working on. I absolutely believe that they are having those conversations and trying to figure out the specifics. I would have just appreciated knowing them a little bit more than he ultimately said.
Yeah, totally understandable. I didn't love, because it sounded like he just didn't want to talk about, and I get that, his answer on when I asked him about what he learned about interviewing for head coaching jobs, because I think he kind of took it as, hey, I'm not here to talk about that. And that's totally cool. I get it. But, you know, he did interview head coaching jobs. And I think when you're in a position like Joe Brady, that can really kind of open your eyes a little bit and window into how other teams operate. He did say that. He said it is a two-way interview, that he did realize, right? It's not just a one-way interview. You do learn a little bit, you know, about how another team is thinking. But he also said, hey, and I did appreciate this, he said he was just himself. When he was going through it, the Bills were in the playoffs. It was like getting off the field, getting on a Zoom call, and just talking to somebody.
Yeah, I did think that that was interesting. He did give us a little insight there about how it's more of just a getting to know each other process when you are a team that's still coaching and getting ready for a playoff game, and that's what he was going through. If you didn't ask the question, a question I was planning on asking him was, there were reports that he took himself out of contention for the Saints job. Was that because of what was, he would have never given us an answer. But I really would love to know if that's more about what was going on in New Orleans, or if that was because he really wanted to stick around in Buffalo, at least for a couple more years. It's probably both. It's probably, let's wait it out. I get to play or coach for the MVP of the league this year, and I'll probably have my pick of the litter at jobs the upcoming season. But I'm interested in kind of, because, you know,
We
sometimes
both know that he, even if he felt it wasn't a good situation in New Orleans,
he would never say that.
That's
No,
correct.
he would never throw a team under the bus, and he would never be ungrateful about the opportunity. But it would be, you know, that's a question to have in 10 or 15 years, maybe when you're sitting at a bar and not at a press conference.
Right. Okay. Any lingering stuff there before we get to questions?
You know what? So I'm doing a story sometime this week on Michael Hoyt. So naturally, I was watching a lot of Michael Hoyt at practice today, and these are just individual drills. You know, he's pretty fluid. He's got a motor. Like, he's a really, really interesting and nice person to talk to. I do think we should try and get him on the podcast, because he is a great talker, and he handled all of the questions incredibly well, including the obvious, like the suspension. How do you approach that? Took full accountability. Listen, I made a mistake. I need to pay for my actions. Sitting on the sideline is going to be so tough for me. It just feels like he's so excited to be part of this team. But I was also impressed from just watching him, right? Like, you just go and you watch a player. Certain guys just move a little bit differently, and they're a little bit more fluid. And it feels like he is the type of player the Bills have been missing. I know the layup comparison was Lorenzo Alexander when they signed him, but there's some similarities. Like, as you're sitting there watching them run around the field, you're like, wow, like that looks a little bit familiar. Deion Walker is huge, and he's, you know what, when somebody is that big, you wonder if they're going to be clunky. He didn't feel clunky to me. There were times he was smoother than other reps. Like, some reps I watched and I was like, wow, like that's pretty crazy for somebody who's that big. Then there were other times where, you know.
And by the way, Bobby Babbage said a guy that big shouldn't be able to do things that guy can do. He said that.
Yeah, so I watched a lot of the defensive line. The other player who always pops to me, and I know we've talked about this on the podcast before, just Solomon is such a good athlete. If he could, if he could piece things together, like, he's just such a good athlete.
Yes.
And I know he doesn't have the prototypical size that they want, but I still wonder, like, if that dude could pop off.
Matt, I noticed him today, like, for that reason. Like, his feet are quick, And he's got these legs. There's these tree trunks, right? This guy,
Mm-hmm.
Javon Solomon. He was very productive in college getting after the passer. I just think he's a sneaky kind of guy that we're not talking a lot about, Javon Solomon here. And I agree. I thought he popped today from what I saw, not necessarily in the team 11 on 11, 7 on 7, maybe a little bit, but I mean in the drills versus other guys, looking at him versus other guys. And I know, I'm sure you have some video, WKBW. I have some video I posted at Sal Sports of the defensive lineman doing some drills, and you can see that with Javon Solomon as well. So I agree. I think he's a kind of a sneaky guy here to keep an eye on as we go forward.
Yeah, and the other thing too that I'll say is these are observations not just visually, but also just from listening to the way that the coaches are talking to the players when they're going through drills, and whether they're being met with praise or they're being met with a little bit of criticism or, hey, you need to do this better. Like, they love that dude from just hearing them talk. And I know, like, restrictions, we can't say specifics or anything like that, but like, it feels like he is making himself noticed. And with so many new faces on the defensive line, I think that's exactly what you need to see at this point in the offseason from a player who it's not a slam dunk will be on the roster. Like, it's probably 50-50, right? That he's on the roster, at least after week 6.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. I guess that sounds right because of the numbers, no doubt about it. But boy, you'd hate to lose a guy like that if you release him. He goes to waivers. He hasn't been in the league 4 years, obviously. You know what I mean? So
yeah, no, for sure. I think that he sticks around just off of athleticism. I feel like that's a player they would want to have in the building.
Okay, so let's get to some questions here. And I have a couple. First one I want to ask you is, I've gotten this from some people before, and it might be in there somewhere from somebody. Do you think that there's anything that should be made about, is this a story or non-story, that Deion Walker was in a video saying Lamar Jackson got robbed of the MVP voting?
I didn't even see the video. No, I had no idea.
Oh yeah, this is a thing. So yeah. So what happened was, and I'll explain what happened then. I think to me, it's a non-story. It was real. The video came out on Twitter recently. It's the NFL and it's guys talking about Madden. And they asked a bunch of rookies whatever question they're asking, and they get to Deion Walker, and he says Lamar got robbed of the MVP. So a lot of Bills fans are mad. I actually had somebody literally call WGR and say, I hope the Bills don't sign him to a contract. He goes back in the draft. I'm like, come on. Are you kidding me?
I didn't know about any of this. This is amazing.
But here's why this is not.
It was probably before he was drafted.
It was at the combine.
Okay. Like, maybe he had just met with the Ravens. He didn't know he was getting drafted by the Bills.
Oh my God.
Come on. It's no different than,
And then it's, what it's turned into? There are people who have phrased it as him saying Josh didn't deserve it. He never said that. He said Lamar got robbed. And that's fine if you want to say that's the same thing. But also, people literally saying to me, what do you think about Deion Walker talking trash about Josh Allen? He did not do that.
You know what they need to do is, I'm sure the team will have a little bit of fun with this internally. Like, they should probably put like handcuffs or something, or like a joke about being robbed or something, and just like really poke fun at it. Or Josh will like subtly like tell him like, hey, you still think if he makes a play on him or something. So I could see something like that happening. But I mean, come on, don't give this guy a hard time. It was before he was on the team.
Otto tweets in, I tweeted back, but I wanted to address this on the pod because it's a great question. He said, can the suspended players train with the team this time of year? What are the restrictions moving forward? Here's the answer. There are no restrictions. They can train and do everything. I'm talking about every practice, every meeting, play in preseason games. The only thing that happens is once they cut down to 53, they don't have to make the 53. They literally go on as a reserve suspended list. They're an extra 2 guys. You have your 53-man roster, and then those guys can't be at the facility for 4 weeks. After 4 weeks, they can rejoin their team to practice for 2 weeks. The Bills have a bye week in there, and then they can play. Otherwise, no restrictions.
Can I ask one question? I should probably know the answer to this, but I bet you do. Can they be at the games still? Not on the sideline, but can they be at the games?
I don't believe so, because they're not allowed to be at the facility if it's a PED suspension.
So, I mean, like, could they be in a suite?
No,
watching the game?
That's a good question. I honestly don't know the true answer to that. My inclination would be no, because they have to be away from the team.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure both of them just go home, right? Like, they probably stay in Western New York and train or something, or it's probably a lot easier for Hoyt, considering it's an hour and a half away to Oakville, so he can just go up and hang out in Canada for a couple weeks. So yeah, it's like no restrictions until there's all the restrictions, basically.
Correct.
And then right when the season starts and the 53 is made, then sayonara for at least 4 weeks.
Yeah, and real quick, just so everybody knows why people might be confused a little bit, and I think this is still the rule. It was for many years. If it's a substance abuse suspension, that is different, and guys can be at the facility because there's treatment available for them. This is not a substance abuse. This is a PED suspension, which is different.
Interesting. I would not have known that. All right,
Yeah.
good point there. All right, this is from Maniac over at Trainwreck Sports. I think this is a good question.
Mhm.
What's the biggest misconception about the 2025 Bills by fans currently? What is the biggest misconception by the fan base about the team right now?
I don't know. I don't know, like if there's a majority opinion on something from the fan base. I think okay. Here's one. I'll give you one that I think. I think there's a misconception that the Bills don't want to sign James Cook. They do. They just don't want to sign him to the money he wants.
Interesting. You think so?
Yes. Brandon Beane said they talked with James Cook and his reps, but they pivoted when they realized they were far apart. So to me, that tells me they want to sign him.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point, actually. I'm interested to see how it all plays out because I wonder, even though Beane's, I don't think he's going to cave. I don't think Beane's going to cave. And it's not caving, right? Like James Cook has earned what is going to be given to him by some team in the NFL. But I've had this lingering thought, would he potentially get an extension right before the season? I just don't think the Bills will do it. I just think that they would rather use that money, if that's what it's going to cost, for a different position down the road and just roll the dice with, Ty Johnson and Ray Davis, if it gets to that point. Let's see. What's the biggest misconception that the fan base has about the team? I'm trying to think of, I don't know all the misconceptions that the fan base has about the team. I was thinking something with the safety position, but I can't think of exactly what it would be. Like, I think most fans would say that the safety position is the weakest position starting on the team, but that might not be wrong, right? Like, even though Bobby Babbitt is talking about it kind of glowingly today, I don't know. Is there a position weaker than that? Maybe punter?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, do they feel it's like that weak of a position? That may be a question there. I still think, outside corner could be a bigger question than safety when it's all said and done. We don't know what Max Harrison's going to turn into, or Tre'Davious White or Dane Jackson, however that winds up shaking out. So, yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's a good question.
Right
Nate
now,
says, go ahead.
Right now, who do you think is the starting cornerback opposite Christian Benford week 1? Hairston or Trey?
I think it's Trey right now.
I think it's Trey right now, too. It's 2 practices. So don't be like, oh, my goodness, Max Hairston is having a terrible start to Bill. It has nothing to do with that. I just feel like they really, really trust Trey. And it's probably, it's not as high of a ceiling, but it's a higher floor. And I think that that's maybe what they want for their cornerback 2 job right now.
Nate says, with Josh missing practice, do you think that would be a good thing for the defense to try a different wrinkle and see how Josh to react to something he might not be used to seeing in practice? And the answer I have is no. Josh Allen has seen everything that's been thrown at him in this league. There'd literally be, like, to me, no benefit to doing that whatsoever, other than not having time on task to what you need to do for the defense. And also, this is not the time to put in wrinkles. This is training camp. A lot of these guys won't even be actually on the team. This is the time to basically figure out who should be on your roster.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. This one is from Q. Why does the Bills organization refuse to wear the standing Buffalo alternate uniforms? We are good uniform guys. We love talking about the uniforms. You got an answer?
The best I can do here is, after we both spoke with Pete Welly at the owners' meetings, we talked about uniforms. I know I did a little bit. We've gone back and when Ron Rakuya was in his position, he had explained a few things to me. And I think what this comes down to is the Bills right now don't want to really do too much different until they get into their new stadium. They kind of just want to have everything kind of be wrapped up at the current stadium, and then they'll usher in new stuff. It doesn't mean they can't. There are ways to do it. I totally get it. I don't think it's a refusal to do it. I think it's just a waiting for the right time to do it in their eyes.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what the rivalry jersey looks like for
Yeah.
this year, or what the rivalry uniform looks like. I don't think it'll incorporate the standing buffalo. I just think that it'll be a different play on the jerseys that they currently wear, like just maybe different colors in different places or whatever it is. I'm really interested though, and I still think, I really do believe that they should have used the red helmets and blue jerseys from the like Jim Kelly Super Bowl era once or twice in the final season. I feel like it would have been a nice way of kind of saying goodbye to the stadium, the most iconic look in that stadium. But it doesn't feel like they're going to do that. It feels like they're going to wear their main jerseys, wear a rivalry jersey, and probably wear a red color rush jersey, and then call it a day. That's just the read that I'm getting on it.
All right. Last one that I'm going to read here. Charles asks Matt and Sal at Sal Sports at Matt_Bove, why weren't either of you invited to the wedding? First of all, Charles, how do you know that neither of us
maybe we
was
were.
invited to
Maybe
the
we
wedding?
were. Maybe we signed an NDA and we're not allowed to talk about it.
That's exactly right.
I had somebody so I was at a party for my wife's school. They had like a picnic, like an almost end of year picnic, and it was on Friday night. So Josh's wedding was on Saturday.
Mhm.
And one of my wife's coworkers, I do not remember her name, but she was very nice. She came up to me and she was like, "Hey, so why aren't you at Josh's wedding?" And I just, for some reason, really quickly was like, "Oh, I'm flying out tonight. I'll get there late tonight and I'll be there
Wow.
tomorrow." And she is just shocked. She's like, she like gasped, "Oh, you're going to the wedding?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll be there. I'm flying out tonight on the red eye, JetBlue, direct to Los Angeles, and I will go and be at the wedding by tomorrow morning." And I let it go for like 30 seconds. And then I was like, "I'm kidding. I will certainly not be at the Josh Allen wedding." But for 30 seconds, she thought I was a pretty big deal. Now she knows that that's certainly not the case. But no, I was not invited. I'll just believe that
No.
I'll just believe the invitation was lost in the mail.
Yeah, Charles, to answer your question, no, you are right, Charles. We were not invited, but no surprise. In fact, I don't know any media that was there or invited, to be honest with you. This is a private, intimate wedding. And I say it that way because there was very little even out there about it. That's the way they wanted it. There were a few pictures afterwards, but nothing that was like super public. Right. And I don't think they need two reporters that are, going to be there. And we both know Josh very well. And it's not like, yes, we have a good relationship with Josh, but this is not
I just
something
imagine
that
like
either of us were going to be a part of.
I imagine like me taking out my Osmo and being like, "Can I get you off to the side to ask you a couple questions?" I wonder though, like there had to be one of those entertainment or
Like
whatever they're
TMZ?
called. Not TMZ. Like wouldn't Vogue be there or something?
Maybe.
Like
I
wouldn't
mean, there
like
were a
one
few
of
pictures posted. I'm like, who's doing this? And why do they seem so
Yeah.
far away? Is it like
Did
somebody
you-
who snuck onto a hill with a big lens? I mean, I couldn't tell.
Did you see who was there? Like obviously like his teammates and everything. Did you see the one like really random but incredible guest that had been reported the last couple days?
No, I'm going to be really honest with you. I actually know. Yes, I care for this conversation. I really kind of don't care about Josh's wedding to the point of like, I don't want to be that guy, if that makes sense. Right. My
Yeah.
wife would tell me like, "Oh, did you see this picture?" I'm like, "Yeah, not really. I don't really need to look at it." But there is a curiosity to me where I did see Dawson Knox and Spencer Brown. I think I have a face of Dalton Kincaid, Gabe Davis. Actually, I think I saw him. I think I might have seen a Shane Buechele. I couldn't tell for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So anyway, that being said, to answer your question, no, I did not read up about any of this stuff.
Larry David was at the wedding because
That's amazing.
allegedly or reportedly, Larry David's trainer is Haley Steinfeld's father. He's like a personal trainer in Hollywood, and they are very good family friends. So there's a picture of Larry David just walking through a courtyard at Josh's wedding. And like, if you were a fan of Seinfeld or Curb, it's just perfect. It's incredible that Larry David would be at Josh Allen's wedding. So it looks like, that Larry David was there.
Okay. I have to tell you a quick like wedding story for a second. That just happened. I was at an event. In fact, this all ties in. I was emceeing Josh Allen's 117 holes, which he wasn't a part of this year, for the reception. He was there. He played a little bit, but he had to leave. So it was that night. And there was a gentleman who was very nice and came up to me and said, "Hey," and we had seen each other at another event a few months ago. And then he said, "Hey, the last time I saw you was at," I think he said something like Ryan and Kelly's wedding or something like that. And I'm like, "Who?" He said, "Ryan and Kelly." I'm like, "Yeah, I wasn't there." "Yeah, yeah, don't you?" And he's trying to kind of convince me I was at this wedding. And I'm like, I have to be honest with you. I don't know who you're talking about. And I've not gone to a wedding all year. And I would know if I went to a wedding, and I really like dancing, and I'm really sorry. And I think I felt bad. I didn't know how to handle it because he was very convinced that he saw me and talked to me at this wedding. And I'm like, I was not at this wedding you're referring to.
You know, you ever see the bit with Scott Van Pelt of like, where in the world is Scott Van Pelt?
Yes.
And people just post
Yes.
pictures of tall, bald people, and they're like,
Yes.
oh, that's Scott Van Pelt. Maybe there was someone who looked like you at this wedding.
And maybe someone was impersonating me. I don't know. He was convinced he like spoke to me at this wedding, even. I'm pretty sure. I mean, he did. It was kind of weird. So anyway, I mean, to that guy, I'm really sorry. I don't know if I didn't mean to make him feel bad. There were two other people there, and they were like, when he walked away, he's like, that was kind of weird. I didn't know what to say. And I'm like, I didn't know what to say either. I just had to tell him, like, that's not me. It wasn't me. I'm so sorry.
I think you handled it the right way. I think you just have to be like, excuse me, very respectful, but also be like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
All right, Matt is yawning, which means we got to go here.
Well,
we had a long day, and hey, we both had a long day today, and long week coming up here for the rest of the week. Hopefully, a lot more sunshine, and then we'll be back a little bit later in the week, and of course, mandatory mini camp next week. Thanks a lot to our producer, Mike Robier. Don't forget to listen to us wherever you pod, iTunes, Spotify, the Odyssey app, and anywhere else. Make sure you subscribe, and of course, at Sal Sports on YouTube. Thanks a lot, everybody.